from the Law and Crime Trial Network. I'm here with Julie Rendeman as well as Michael Koribanics. Now, we've just touched on the McStave family murder case, and they will not be back for a few minutes. So we're going to flip back again to the Mueller report. We're going to look at a quick video of the Attorney General Barr answering questions from the press about his interpretation or his reading of the Mueller report. So there's Attorney General William Barr giving glowing reviews as to what the Mueller report says. No collusion as he interprets it. Now, Julie and I have talked about it. Michael, I want you to jump right in. What do you make of these statements by Attorney General William Barr?
I really was hoping that this report would be released without the editorial. It's very confusing, I think, to people because we're in such a state now where everybody takes a position before getting to their opinion that I think it's really disheartening to hear the leader of really law enforcement of our country coming out and giving an editorialization and his interpretation of it. It is what it is, it says what it says, and the people should be able to decide. And I think people should really just back away from what their political stance is to look at this report, whatever it is. If you don't like Trump, it shouldn't be that this is a horrible report, and it should be for what it is and what the facts do. That's why we're on a show like this, because we want people to base their opinions on facts and not some slant or some sort of spin.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. You're a former prosecutor or always a defense attorney?
I'm a former prosecutor. Then I got wise and went on the side for righteous.
Got it. So
he fled to the other side.
So I did not have the privilege or the experience. Well, I'm not going to say privilege. I didn't have the experience to be a prosecutor first. So I'm going to come to you two as two former prosecutors. Here is the head, basically, prosecutor of the country, right? And he's looking at information and basically saying, we're not going to go forward to prosecute. It's kind of like when a prosecutor says, hey, not enough in the grand jury, we're not going to present to the grand jury. Is this that impartial seeking of justice that I believe that, I know definitely Julie, because I know you on a personal basis, I'm assuming Mike, that you guys were taught that you're supposed to do? You're supposed to be completely impartial, you're supposed to be just justice and nothing more. Do you see that from Attorney General Barr?
Well, I think the problem is the context of this, because this is not your normal sort of investigation into a prosecution. This is a highly political, a highly sensitive area, because usually, in my experience as a state prosecutor and as a federal criminal defense lawyer, is if the prosecuting body doesn't have a case, they just let it go. They don't comment to the press. There's not the need for transparency, but because this is involving the president, his campaign, it's really not fair to look at it in that context, I think, because there has to be an explanation as opposed to with regular prosecutions.
Well, we got to jump to a clip for 1 second, but I definitely want to get Julia's comment because I can see her thinking about something very important, I'm sure. And so let's jump to Attorney General Barr again commenting on this issue. Yeah. And so I know in earlier clips we saw, and I think Julie commented on it, that he might have, I guess I don't want to say attempted because that has a legal emphasis on it, but he might have done things that might have led to obstruction, but for the people around him who stopped him. So kind of my question is, he didn't obstruct, but could that bleed into another potential crime or another potential offense that he maybe inadvertently or maybe directly tried to do something, but just by the grace of God or whomever around him, he was not able to complete that? Does that maybe bleed into something else?
Well, I think more so by the grace of the Fifth Amendment, things didn't come his way by the people surrounding him, because of the fact that it appears that there was, in part of the Mueller report, they spoke about how many people and how, frustrating it was because people weren't coming forward, people couldn't speak. And I had a chance to look at part of the report, but he spoke about, and I think Mueller was very fair, and when he said there were people who were asserting the Fifth Amendment and didn't rise to the level where he felt it would be just to give them immunity. And I thought that was pretty interesting, because that is a thing. So I don't know if it's so much the circle of faith or the circle of the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, and there's definitely, I think that, we probably all have clients who think that the Fifth Amendment is definitely the grace of God. They're like, oh, I can exercise this? This is something I've got? Great. And we all love it when they exercise it. Now, Michael, I've got to be fair. I put Julie in the hot seat. As a public defender, I'm a little jaded whenever I get redactions. I'm always thinking, what are they not? And now you're a former prosecutor. You've seen the light. You're now a defense attorney. When you see redactions, being that you've kind of operated in both worlds, What is your mind going towards when you see redactions?
Somebody's hiding something from me and my client. There's either a confidential informant, there's either something in there that could lead me to other discovery that could benefit me. Nobody redacts anything that benefits the accused.
Now, is it a redaction that is just, as Attorney General Barr is saying, is, hey, we have to make sure that if we go to investigate another case, people don't know how we do it. They don't know our sources or our methods. We're protecting third parties. Or is it as nefarious as we as defense attorneys might sometimes have in our back of our mind and being like, we got to keep digging?
No, we're paranoid by nature, or else we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, because we're always testing things. And you make a good point, but I'm also going to speak as a criminal defense attorney who has represented subjects of grand jury investigations, who has represented people who the federal government has looked at and were found to not have committed any crime. So on the other side of that coin, in the same position, I'd be fighting like hell to make sure that my client's name is redacted, that he maintains his integrity. I mean, this is a very difficult balancing act that the Attorney General has to perform here, because, like I said, that's why we have to keep the politics and whether you're pro-Trump, anti-Trump out of this. And he's walking a real tightrope here. So it's not an easy task, and it's really easy to sit here and criticize.
Yeah, and I think that, unfortunately, you can't separate politics out of it. Do I agree with you, Michael? We absolutely should. But when it comes to redactions, as Julie said, part of it is sometimes faith. And for a lot of people, I think in America, unfortunately, there's very few people on the fence. Either you're pro or anti. So if you're pro-Trump, you're like, I have absolute faith that all redactions are great. If you're anti-Trump, you're going to be like, no faith whatsoever. So we're kind of just left in this void.
Well, I think Mueller has proved, regardless of where you stand, that he really did a thorough investigation as to what he looked into. People may not like where he ran into roadblocks, but this is not a popularity contest. He acted like a true lawyer and prosecutor, in my opinion. If he was really someone who had some slant, he could have pushed these facts and made it go further, but he really just reported the facts, said, you know, and Julie made a good point. I mean, just because he said there was no collusion, and I really don't like that word collusion, because I think it's something somebody's taken up with the press,
right,
and everybody's used that as a defense. Conspiracy is conspiracy is conspiracy is conspiracy. If people want to say it's not collusion, then that's fine. It isn't, because legally it's conspiracy. You can have more. That's why they have thesauruses. There's more than one word for an action. And I think one of the things that Julie pointed out that I really agree with is, nobody's saying that there was no wrongdoing here. What they're saying is, as responsible law enforcement prosecutors, we don't think we'd be within our ethical obligations to bring a charge we can't prove. And right now, we don't have enough to prove it.
Got it. And I think we talked about this earlier with Julie about, like, so where are we left off? Like, what, after this is all said and done, and Attorney General William Barr has said this, where do we kind of go from here? But after this is a daily debrief with Aaron Keller. Michael, you're staying with us. Julie and I are signing off. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and enjoy your weekend.